Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, the news these days in the UK is that the King Charles, has said that he's cooperating in an independent study exploring the relationship between the British monarchy and the slave trade in the 17th and 18th century. Now, this is very common here. In fact, a number of our universities have already discovered that more or less they were founded on money that came from the slave trade. Universities such as the University of Glasgow, and I think the one in Edinburgh as well, are paying millions every year to the Caribbean to try to give them some kind of closure and compensation. Actually, a few months ago, one of our famous BBC News presenters started paying money from her family to the slave trade. I think her name was Laura Trevelyan. Her family were very rich and they earned a lot of money off the back of slaves. So she went to Africa and set up a scheme for paying money back to their communities. I don't know how exactly she did that. I mean, there must have been a way she traced specific people. And also, I don't know why she didn't do that in the Caribbean. Or maybe she decided to investigate where exactly her family's slaves came from, because I think they may have started off in Africa and then went to the Caribbean. I don't know. But good news is that Buckingham Palace, the King's office, has now decided they're going to investigate. So this presumably is going to mean money exchanging hands. So it's a very big business here now, compensating for the slave trade. The palace said King Charles takes the issue profoundly seriously. The research is being carried out by the University of Manchester along with historic royal palaces. Both the King and the Prince of Wales, that's William, have previously expressed their personal sorrow at the suffering caused by the slave trade. Speaking during a trip to Rwanda last year, the king said he could not describe the depths of his personal sorrow at the suffering caused by the slave trade. In a visit to Jamaica last spring, Prince William said slavery was abhorrent, should never have happened, and forever stains our history. Yeah, but you can't look back by today's standards into history to see how bad it was, because at the time it was perfectly acceptable. So for example, in the future, people will probably look back into the year 2023 and they'll say, oh, these poor people using such basic communication, because by that time they'll be teleporting each other or will be examining each other's thoughts, I think. So yeah, it's all very strange. Apparently, Dr. Halima Begum, chief executive of the Runnymede Trust, a race equality think tank, told the BBC it's wonderful to see King Charles building on his mother's legacy. She described it as incredibly encouraging to see engagement from the monarchy on such issues. Yeah, but a lot of money involved in this, which makes me a little bit suspicious. Whenever there's money changing hands, it does make me wonder exactly where it's going and how it's getting to the people it should be getting to. I don't know, it's a good idea in practice, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Well, it's a PhD study co-sponsored by Historic Royal Palaces, which manages several sites. It will look into the extent of any investments from other slave trading companies as well. And as I mentioned before, We have statues and street names based around the slave trade. And I'm thinking very specifically about streets like St. Vincent Street or Jamaica Street, and statues of philanthropists who built up our towns are now being removed purely because they invested in the slave trade. But we should not forget the other good things they did for our society. Okay, they had slaves, but that wasn't all of them. They also did other good things. So we shouldn't just label them bad because of one bad thing. But of course, it's more, I think, to assure the public that the government recognizes that it had done something wrong and gains our trust. Very complex, isn't it? Very complex. Well, that's it from me. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and let's talk again soon. Bye.